save it.
I think she can talk about it. Just a word that she can. All right. We'll call the meeting to order and stand for the pledge of allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can I get a motion to approve the agenda? Is there a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, agenda is approved. Information items, communities in schools.
Oh, well, they are not paying it. Yeah, grab them. We're moving.
Lisa said we can just talk about it at the end, bring it up and talk about archery at the end.
I think there's a PowerPoint.
Thank you.
Go, ladies. This is the. You probably have to kind of come over here where the student chairs are. Who's talking? Is it you?
I think.
Genesis, all of you?
Yes.
Okay,
Oh, just us two.
okay. You guys just got voluntold. You're
Yes.
talking, right? Are you able to put the PowerPoint up and share it? That's in the packet. Yeah, it is. It's in the packet, right? Oh, yeah. It's like 6 slides. It's not too. Yeah, the communities and schools right there in the middle.
Just play the video.
Yes, that's easier.
Yeah.
That's easier.
We should put a stand or a sit while you're presenting.
Sit or standing.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
whatever makes you comfortable. And when you're ready, just please introduce yourself.
I think she's just getting it shared
Make
right
sure you
now.
share sound too. Did you say there's a video?
No.
No,
Oh.
well, it doesn't matter. Okay,
Ready? Thank you guys so much for having us tonight. My name is Erika Martinez Acosta. I'm the program manager for Prosser District. And with me, I have,
Genesis.
he's our student support coordinator here at Prosser High School. And then we also have our executive director, Lupe Mares, and our associate director, Emma Gonzalez. So we'll just kind of get into it. Want to hit the next slide? So currently, right now, we are in 2 schools here in the Prosser District. Our neighbors over at Housel Middle School, which is Laura, our student support coordinator, and then again, Genesis here at Prosser High School. Next slide. So kind of what does CISBF support look like in our schools? These are just kind of like a general overview of the supports that we can provide in a school. To highlight kind of the things that we do here in Prosser, a lot of social emotional learning. And then later on, Genesis can kind of tap into what that looks like specifically here at Prosser High. Home visits to be able to take basic needs, any kind of resources that a family might be requesting to their home to eliminate the barrier of if they don't have transportation to come to the school, just to kind of make it easier for them. And academic and attendance support and monitoring, whether that's through Power School, whether that's one-on-one conversations with Genesis and the student and the family. I know she's been helping out with conferences, and that's really important to be able to make that connection with families, to talk about attendance and the importance of that, as well as their academics. There's the resource navigation, whether that's trying to navigate how to apply for a job online or how to find different resources online and apply through different websites. That is something that we can offer as a support. And college and career readiness. I know Laura and Genesis have partnered with several different agencies, like the Prosser EDA, the Boys and Girls Club, Gear Up, and the Migrant Program that put on the college and career fair back in October,
November.
and they're already kind of talking about what that's going to look like for next year, but to be able to bring in the variety of resources, jobs, different colleges to be able to bring those supports into the school, to make it easier for students to be able to access those different companies and colleges, to figure out what their next step is gonna be from school. And as well as building community partnership, that is really important with their program, to be able to outsource some of the different ideas that our student support coordinators might have, where funding might be an issue to be able to bring it into the school, where, or even just resources in general, if different businesses want to donate and don't necessarily know where to, Communities in Schools is always a great way to bring those resources into the building. So next slide. So this is kind of general data from our last school year, 21-22. Overall, between the two schools, we had 99 school-wide supports, and 5,564 basic needs items provided. So those are tangible items going out to students, going out to families. About 15,056 students receive school-wide supports, as well as 6,000 of those students receive basic needs. And a total of 90 students were case managed between Lauda and Genesis. The next slide.
Just to clarify, like if you served a student 16 times, they're counted up there 16 times. That's why we don't have that many students, so.
And then so a current overview of where we're at as of now in the school year. So 88 school-wide supports. So some of those supports are the first day of school support, getting a student familiar with the building, with where their classes are. Open house, again, that college and career night. Any awareness events, any translations in the building. Both of our staff are bilingual in Spanish, so that is a huge support out here in the Foster area. Family engagement and home visits. And then as of now, 2,516 basic needs have been provided. That's in the weekend food bags, school supplies, clothing vouchers, hygiene, snacks, pantry items. And they both are now serving 90 students, case managed. And so as of now, 13,683 are receiving the school-wide services. And again, those numbers are duplicated. And and then just also to reiterate, so Genesis is participating in the Mustang Thrive group and the student support teams. They both are part of Prosper Thrives Coalition meetings every month, as well as the community engagement board. Laura is sitting on the leadership team at Howell Middle School, and also a part of the school focus group, to be able to provide that point of view as a student support coordinator with community schools. So next slide.
Yes, so just how Erica said, so both Laura and I are able to case manage 45 students a school year. That doesn't mean that's the only amount of students that we help. We will help the entire student body if needed. So some of the supports that we've been able to help partner up here at the school is bringing just different colleges for college information, the CAMP program, CBC, just to do more outreach to our students, just in case you're feeling a little bit doubtful of what they want to do after high school. We provide that. How Erica mentioned, we also partnered to do the career fair, which was a huge success. Our students really were able to learn more about what else is out there, not just college or university. Tech schools or unions were available as well. We do a lot of home visits. One of the barriers for our families here is sometimes having enough money for guests. Even, I mean, our area here, sometimes some of the families live up in Patterson. Some of them live all the way up close to Benton City. And so that drive down here, it is, with how expensive gas prices are right now, it can be a barrier. So we always try to make sure that we get that to them. As well as we try to include our students who sometimes feel a little bit doubtful or think that they can't participate or be involved in school just because they don't have that motivation or they've always been told no. We try to include them in as many school events, school groups, clubs, so that way they also feel and know what it's like to be a part of something. So down here, we were able to be invited by Thrive to participate in the Youth Summit. And so the students that were able to attend, they had a really good time. They learned about leadership skills, they learned about prevention, mental health. And so there are opportunities that sometimes some of our students are not always able to have. And so for them to be able to have this opportunity was really meaningful for them. We also try to do as many awareness events. We did Hispanic Heritage Month here, and Laura has done Women's History Month at the middle school as well. And we also do try to, as much as we can, build community partnerships. Our community partnerships mean a lot to us because they support our mission, and more than anything, they support our students here at PHS. So a lot of them do contribute snacks to our pantry. Some of them are able to donate direct funding for our program in case there's an immediate need for one of our students. That funding is able to help cover maybe a backpack if we don't have any, or just basic things like that. Other than that, I mean, the family engagement has been my biggest focus for Laura and I think all of us all around, especially after COVID. It's been really hard to get those families to come back and be involved. So we've been able to have really good communication with them, calling them, letting them know what's going on, even if it's not an event that we are hosting or putting on. For example, Guiding Good Choices, calling our families, inviting them, conferences, reminding them, your son, daughter has their conferences at so-and-so time and day. So just getting them involved back into our building, because it really does make a difference in our students' outcome and success. Any questions?
Are there any questions?
This is amazing. It's wonderful.
Yes. I'm very happy. We have communities in schools here. When I was in high school or just in school, because I graduated from here, I really wish we did have something available like this, because the relationships that you're able to build with the students are just different, and you really do get to know them truly, what they're going through.
And connecting the family
Yes,
is
yeah.
really important.
Yes,
so-
it is.
Right. So how do you identify the students that would use your services within the schools, whether it's here or at housing?
So a lot of all of them are referral based. So the staff members do know that there is a referral. So if they have a concern, if it's hygiene or just attendance, academics, there is a form that they can fill out for us to connect with each of the students. Some of them are word of mouth. So if there's a teacher that's concerned, they will let us know and we can connect with the student. What we try to do is all the students that Laura works with at Housel, they will transition over here to the high school. So I make sure, like right now, I know last year was my first year here, but what we try to do is towards the end of the school year, I went to have lunch with her students that were coming over to the high school. So that way they knew who I was and felt at least that they knew somebody up here. This year, we're planning to have lunch with them again and have some of our students kind of get to know them. So that way they have a familiar face and they feel more comfortable, because for a lot of them, for everybody, I think high schools are really big. It's intimidating to a lot of them. And so being able to have that easier transition really does help them out.
And like on the referral basis, so our services and our supports are open to any student, whether that's a one-time where they just needed that quick pack or that quick support meeting to be able to get back on, their motivation, or a long-term where they are then case managed. And that's kind of more when they're seeing the student more often, if they're asking for more help. So, yeah.
And they can self-refer.
Yes.
Yes, they can too.
Great job.
Well, thank you.
Next, we have discussion items, policy 6225, electronic use of signature.
So this is just a policy that we're going to propose to the board around the use of e-signatures and software like DocuSign. So expedites the process and maybe even take some of the workload off of meetings being set up by, like, say, Kimball, or working with some of our vendors. So yeah.
Do you envision it only to be used for business purposes, or will it also be used for like parent signatures?
I think that probably business purposes, and I know Amy's on here, she can chime in too, but I think that the ESD has a policy, and so we already use DocuSign to sign many of our documents with the ESD. And so I think specifically probably around more business stuff, but it probably can be leveraged to work with parents. So
Do you know what the cost is to have the DocuSign?
I
Like
don't.
an annual
I don't.
subscription or-
It would be, so first we would need authorization to be able to use software like this, and then, of course, we don't have to use, DocuSign, I think, is one software that does it. We worked with a group that does our website, and they use a software called Panda. So I think there's a number of them out there. We can do some price shopping to see what the best deal is.
How safe is the electronic?
It's emailed to them, and there's the way that, or at least my experience, with the ESD is they send you a link. And if it's not used within a certain window of time, then that link expires. And then you have to go in and get another link sent, and, so it's pretty current, with your email, and I think that some of those are safeguards. I don't know that it's encrypted or anything like this. We could definitely check into that.
It's very common practice these days.
I think,
It's become a real common practice. I know that, that was one of the concerns in the past was the safety of, somebody that wasn't an authorized user of the, being able to use that electronic signature, going out and signing checks and, how safe is that electronic signature, the safeguards that are built into it so that it's only being used by authorized people.
Is there any intention to use it to sign checks?
According to the policy, it's just records, school board minute.
Yeah.
Resolution.
Right.
Paperwork.
But is it, is it safe? Because, in today's age, people could
Yeah.
take that signature and do.
Yeah, I know what you mean. There's versions of this taking place, I'll say, and we do vector training with our teachers. And we track their use in that. And so when they sign in for Safe Schools every year to use that, it's under their username, and we're tracking it. And so it's as if they're saying that they attended that training within the district. And so I would say that that's kind of a version of that, but we've had good success with unique username and passwords, and I think this is a gradual next step into the world of electronics. I know she's online. I don't know if she has her
Looks like she's unmuted.
volume up.
Are you referring to me, Matt? Yes,
Yeah,
thank-
but
Yeah,
it-
so I'm here. So I would like to chime in if that's okay. This is really just the first step to even allow for us to pursue different avenues to go with the electronic signature. It's something that's required. There's an RCW. I don't know the exact name or the exact number off the top of my head, but this is kind of just to get that process started, because we are pursuing that ability when it makes sense. And then just like anything else, we wouldn't use it if it wasn't, a good method. So if it's someone just signing into a training, that's maybe a little less risk than, signing a check or something. And so it's really just the first step. And then we would have to update any other policies and procedures if we plan to also, change any methods with that. So.
I'd say too, now that I know we have you listening, Amy's done tremendous work in a number of different areas this year, but one of the pieces that she's really pushed for pretty hard within the office is to go paperless. And so it cuts costs down, copying and filing and all those different things. And so she's really worked to push the office in a new direction. And so I think, if we could leverage these technologies, it just becomes more efficient.
I just think it's a necessary part of business, and in the new modern world,
They're pretty much everywhere.
everywhere.
Yeah, for
Any further
several
discussion?
years.
We can go to B, policy and procedure 3116, students in foster care.
So this policy is a recommended policy. It really very much mirrors the policy for homeless students, because students in foster care really have the rights to similar services and immediate enrollment. You can't hold them out because you can't, they don't have a, birth certificate or verification of something that might be required. Also providing things like transportation to stay in their school that they were in. Like, for instance, maybe a student went into foster care that's from Prosser but had to move to Grandview. We could transport them, and we use Title I funds to support them in a similar way to homeless students. So it just kind of came across my desk, and I mean, like I said, it's not necessary, but I think it makes sense. We don't have a lot of foster students. There's times in our district we have none. Right now we have 4. But it just kind of protects their rights and codifies that into policy, so they don't get they know what rights they have, and there isn't issues with enrollment and things like that. So
Any questions?
Yeah, I got you. A lot of, I know we just looked at, or we signed an agreement with somebody that had a lot of the same language that this policy has.
it was probably the DCYF agreement, because that's who we communicate, that's how we find out we have students in foster care.
I think that was.
Yeah.
So a couple quick questions is, do we have a foster care liaison?
That'd be me.
Okay, that was easy. My second question on, well, I guess it's page 16, very top paragraph, kind of just above records transfer. It lists,
Okay, I'm looking at the attachment page.
so it would be the same paragraph as enrollment. It's the last paragraph right before records transfer.
Okay,
It talks about having, we cannot prevent a student foster care from enrolling in our schools. And one of the things, this kind of concerns me a little bit, is including a history of violent behavior. I know we should all have compassion, to get these kids the best education they can, but I guess at what point would we sacrifice the safety of the kids, at current safety and safety of students and staff within our school currently, by bringing a student that has a history of violent behavior?
so this mirrors law, but we have a student, there could be a student that had been previously suspended, maybe even multiple times for fighting, say it was for fighting. If they're not in an expulsion status or in a long-term suspension status in their school, they can enroll. So this is really more about protecting, like, it's protecting kids who are in our district and may have to live somewhere else within reason. It's not like, we're going to transport from, like, we've transported from the Tri-Cities for a short period of time when a student has been displaced towards the end of the school year, but it means they get to stay at the school. So they would have already been here. The other students that it would impact really would be a new student enrolling if they moved into Prosser, and then we have to enroll them anyway. So when we get a student in and we're getting, records, if they're expelled or on expulsion, we won't enroll them. They have to satisfy whatever agreements they have to accommodate, whatever has to be done in their other school. But if it's basically the idea, I think the language is a little
You can,
inflammatory, but it's when we enroll kids, they could come in, little Matt Ellis could come in, and what a lot of our schools
you gotta
do.
use.
Little Matt Ellis. Little Matt Ellis comes in, he's gonna enroll in school. Sometimes we meet with parents, can call the other school, those things. And oftentimes the student will start the next day because it gives time for them to build a schedule and do all of that. You can't actually do that with a homeless or a foster student. You don't have to put them right in class in that first hour, but you can't send them away and ask them to come back the next day.
Expulsions are statewide.
Mhm.
And so when a principal applies it, it has to be lifted by somebody. You're out of every single school in the entire state, except for private.
Yeah.
Which they can choose who to take. Now, out of all subgroups, racial, poverty, migrant, foster care and homeless kids are the least likely to succeed.
Mm.
And there's laws around it. We have, I mean, there's a whole set of McKinney-Vento and how you register kids. And so it tries to protect against some of the most vulnerable students and just provide resources and latitude for the district to take some sort of action to help these students, whether it happens in their district or whether it's outside their district, where the student shows up at your school doorstep and says, I'm homeless, right? I have nobody in my life to help support me. And so in extreme cases like an expulsion, if that's applied,
That's
you know,
everybody.
yeah, but if there's, I think extreme discipline, I mean, there are things that you can do. You do have to serve the kid, but you can shorten schedules, you can provide other resources, things like
They
that.
can be.
Just can't be exclusionary.
I think the other thing to think about too, and then one of the reasons I think that comes along, think about the reasons a kid might be in foster care.
Yes, no.
And so the
yeah.
exposure to, so some of those things are things that the student would need support with. And so it doesn't mean you can't bring them in and have some sort of behavior contract or certain things, restrictions that you put on the things they do at school and how they operate in the day. But that's really why it's there. But there's laws we have to follow, like I said, or like Matt said, around expulsion and stuff, but if they come. But mostly sometimes this is kids coming in who have been placed in foster care here in town. But sometimes it's kids are here and they get placed maybe in foster care nearby, or maybe even in our district. I mean, they don't even move.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, that.
Yeah.
After reading the entire policy and procedure, that was the.
I know, it does
one of the
stick out
few
kinda
things that
weird.
Kind of stuck out.
does,
weird that,
yeah.
You know, I would hate to bring somebody into our schools that
Right.
could harm somebody else.
well,
Yeah.
the reality is if a student just any student moves into our district that is on good standing, or like not saying that had some sort of history, you can't deny enrollment to them if they are able to be enrolled in a school. We can't deny enrollment. We can put on restrictions but we can't deny them.
Get super interesting where the rights of the student and where that intersects with law. So like, say for instance, homeless child who's also a sexually aggressive youth. Right, and so they have different labels, and then because of those things, there's some conflicting things sometimes that happen in systems, but those are case by case, you know.
One last question,
Sure.
which is on the last paragraph of the policy. And I could be reading it wrong. I've read it multiple times, but I still feel like that it has to do with graduation requirement. Kind of the way I'm reading it is this paragraph says we can lower the standard for graduation if they complete work at other schools. And I guess my question for that is, could we be potentially setting the kid up for failure in the future?
So an example of that could be students been in foster care, bumped around in different states, comes to Washington as a junior or a senior, and are we going to make them take Washington State history? No.
Okay.
So those kinds of examples. Here in
wouldn't
our
be
state,
like
they're
math
required to
or
have a they're required to have a high school and beyond plan, but they're not required, but the state doesn't require, they used to do senior projects. Some school districts still do that. Like, it's those kinds of things that are local requirements or local state requirements, like Washington State history. Many of the states require their state history course, and maybe they have that one, but there's no reason to make them take Washington State history.
Would that be something that should be clarified in our policy?
I don't think so, because each of these kids is really a case by case basis on what situation they're in. The counselors, the administrators work with students to try to work through that. Students that get waivers from graduation or waiver, that information comes through me as well. So it really is, most of these kids are in very unique circumstances, especially when you get into older youth that maybe if they've been in foster care all this time, have not had a consistent placement. And we don't have a lot of foster care kids because we don't have a lot of foster families. And we also don't have like any group homes or anything. We don't have anything like that in Prosser. So that's why our numbers usually are quite low. Bigger districts deal with a lot more, a lot of really challenging situations.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Are there any other questions? All right, we'll go to item C, policy and procedure 1400, meeting conduct, order of business and form.
So there were a couple things in this policy that kind of popped out. And so it was brought to our attention by President Riley. And it just goes back to that idea about meeting time and location, but also how do we get feedback within our meetings and contain conversations so they just don't become out of hand? And how do we have the most efficient and effective meetings we can? So I think there are a couple different considerations there. But yeah, we just wanted to bring it for discussion, allow the board to talk about it.
Well, I guess I'll go first. We have this policy currently, right?
Mhm.
That states our meeting time, daytime and location.
Yes.
I don't, and I didn't look at our current one, but I'm looking at this one and it's got some, I think some differences, but I could be wrong. When it talks about, you know, the option 1 and option 2, you know, I think Zoom is a great opportunity to, you know, for those in our community to be a part of our meetings that may not be able to make it. But my question is, you know, what does that cost us per meeting? Do we don't have to pay for anything? It's free?
We have a Zoom subscription. We have 20 licenses district-wide. So each meeting doesn't cost, just that subscription does, but we use it for other things.
But time,
It would just cost personnel time, right?
Oh, yeah, we're still paying for personnel time.
So I guess that's one question I would have is like, what are we paying? If we can go all live and not have Zoom, even though I think it's warranted, you know, what does that cost? One other question, and I didn't really see it in here, but I don't know if we can add it, is actually putting meeting protocols together to where I know we have it on the agenda, like we have those rules that we read prior to, you know, but should we actually put it in a policy so that it stays strict? You know, for instance, like public comment, you know, I think we used to go 2 minutes and we kind of wavered on that a little bit. You know, maybe 2 minutes isn't right. I don't know what the time frame is, but if we put it in policy, you know, then we can, you know, make sure that everybody has ample time to speak, but it also doesn't, you know, take an extra hour or 2 to go through everybody that wants to speak. So those are my 2 comments on this.
The Zoom is nice for me, like when I can't make it to a meeting, it's
Exactly.
great. And then those Friday, you know, sometimes we'll have a meeting and we all Zoom in. So that is nice as far as being a board member and getting to still participate that way. And then I do think it gets a little lost sometimes that it is a business meeting with your board for approving payroll and vouchers. And you know, it's not necessarily the first stop for everybody's issues and concerns. You know, there's a list of places, teachers and principals and other administrators. And I think there's a situation, I know we've had them before, where they said, I've talked to this person, so I'm here. And that makes sense to me. But I don't think it should be the first stop if you haven't gone anywhere else. I know we could consider and I hate the idea of timing people, but I think, you know, a 30-minute total, decide we could go 3 minutes instead of 2 minutes per person. And then we could lift it if the situation warrants it, or if we have a topic that we think, you know, needs specific comment from the community, we could say, okay, we're talking about new curriculum tonight. And at that point, we'll discuss it and now we welcome public comment on that issue and build it in that way. But I do think kind of have to have more business and less feeling.
I agree.
These meetings are the board's meetings. And so it's for the board to do the business of the district in a public setting. If you are gonna approve something, you do need to have public comment, but yeah, we do have a complaint policy. I mean, we've received complaints at the district before, and so it, I think it's really about, what do we want to hear? What are there different established processes and procedures for? Ideally, right, and this is the ideal, boards operate in this realm of policy and budget. However, we know in small communities that people really define leadership as, we want you to get involved on specific issues. So I think that there's a balance there. And a policy, of course, policies are governing rules. And so the board gets to set those, and you know, I think it's reasonable. And if we get into a pattern of it, community members oftentimes understand and really develop their arguments or whatever they're gonna say ahead of time so that they're prepped, which is nice too. They get everything out that they want to.
I think if we are gonna time people, if there's a way we could have like a stop clock, something else, so it's not like
Like a shot
Mid-
clock.
perhaps, so it's not,
Uh,
one of us going, time and they're mid-word, that way they can kind of see and like, wrap up their thoughts and their point. I think that's a more civilized way.
I know that in Kennewick, they actually have it projected. They have, I think they have 2 minutes. And if you watch the board meetings, you can actually see it to the left of where the speakers are. Counts down, then it goes on 30-second, and then it's a red light, a yellow light, and stop. That'd be something that might be worth looking at.
I think
I
that'd be
like that.
perfect.
Maybe you could put it up there somewhere.
Further discussion?
So if we bring this back for, first reading or whatever, should we put language in there that by policy, we're gonna have set aside 20 or 30 minutes for public comment? Or something like that, so that we do stick to it?
The only thing I wonder about is like, if you have that one person, are they gonna get the 30 minute?
Not if we limit
Yeah.
everybody to.
So I think you kind of have to limit the time plus.
It's just gone through, I mean, there have been so many different, as leaders change, we've had different leaders do different things, and we went from not taking any public comment during COVID. And that was wild, and the community was frustrated about that. When Peggy sat over the board, she was drawing names to say it's at random. And so we're gonna limit the time that we're gonna hear that, but we're gonna draw names. Or that was a solution that we've used in the past. To also opening it up to, the audience as well as online, and whoever wants to talk almost at whatever time, we've done that too. And maybe that's too liberal and too free. Sometimes it gets in the way of the board actually having an open and honest conversation, because you have people jumping in. And so I do think that it's wise to kind of reestablish some rules. And if you choose to deviate from that, it's something we can put something in there, but we can draft on this and get some drafts back. What I heard was Zoom is great. Look at 2 to 3 minutes, and then of course, we're kind of confining that to maybe the first 30 minutes of a meeting. And with
I
hopes
think
that it
what
doesn't go there.
best for the comments though was when we knew that we set aside like 30 minutes or 40 minutes. And people pre-signed up, whether it was on paper or on Zoom, pre-signed up. And you count how many people, divided it into 40 minutes or whatever amount of time. And that told me how much time everybody had to talk. And so, it was usually it was 2 to 3 minutes they could talk.
Mhm.
And tried not to interrupt. But sometimes they go over,
Yeah.
and that happened, and sometimes they weren't nearly that long, but you try to let everybody have their full say. Then you'd always have those, wait a minute, I have one more thing, can I go again?
Yeah.
But yeah, I'd like to have people be able to have that, be able to say, I have something I'd like to share. And they should have that opportunity to share, but, you know,
Mm.
Be kind of nice if there was like a meeting set aside just for public comment. Once a month, people come in and they have 2 hours to discuss.
They have our email too.
yeah. Yeah.
And they can do it every day if they
Sometimes
want.
they do. But yeah,
I do like Noah's idea of having, in yours, of having some kind of a visual next to, you know, where they're speaking, that they can realize, okay, I'm getting close. And
Have like a chess clock, press it
Yeah.
down once it gets to the other side, and the
so they
person
could
will
see
click.
themselves. It was getting close. But yeah,
And it reminds me, I had a parent reach out to me this week about having interpreters at our meeting. They had asked specifically if I have someone that can interpret, if I want to meet with them, and I employ an interpreter, so I can do that one-on-one. I don't know what anyone else's abilities are, but I do. At the meeting, we should have an interpreter every. meeting.
We had one for a long time. And then we had like a year and a half of meetings where they'd come, wait, and then nobody would come and they'd go home. We just have to find someone that's willing to take that role on again, because sometimes they come and there isn't anybody here.
I
that
hate
you
to have
have.
somebody come and then we don't have somebody like, oh, well, nobody came for a few weeks.
Is
so-
there a way to
Well, it was a,
appreciate that?
yeah, long time, but
Yeah.
it used to be
There-
Martha.
They, through the migrant program, we have a couple different technologies. So one of them is the earphones that parents put in and somebody translates in the back of the room, in time. And then Eric Larez actually for the migrant department just invested in, it's with your phone.
They don't work very well though.
So, but it's, I'm sure it'll improve over time as technology.
According to
goes.
the principals,
But you do,
that's what they love.
you have your earphones
Yeah.
and you can speak English and it'll translate to their,
It might be a
Spanish to
little
their
harder
earphones,
here.
and they
'cause
can speak
it's-
Spanish,
if
and
someone's
it'll pick up
talking.
on the cell phone and it's all like, yeah, it's kind of an interesting technology, but there are options. It gets down to that, the question that you ask about the expensive board meetings. And what we did do in the past was, even though we hired an interpreter, if there was nobody there, we would send them home.
Yeah. they work like
And then,
half
of course,
hour.
like I said, during COVID, it was just such a crazy disaster that, I mean, we were only meeting online and that was tough in time. And then we had this whole big thing about people unmuting themselves and swearing on. It was wild. Oh, my word. I don't
We
want
could
to
put out
relive it.
a post, we could put out a posting to see who would be interested in translating. I wouldn't, usually we're saying, please come and do this for us.
We have to use like a certified translator. Is it something that like? a
We-
high
we
school
haven't
student
in the
can do
past.
and get, you know, community credit for it?
Possibly, community service hours, it's just harder to count on high school
Yeah.
kids. The versus an employee. No, we didn't have we just used, people have a lot of, people, because it's verbal translation. That's what that'd be the number one thing most people are comfortable with versus writing. So yeah, we just had a skilled para come and do it, and with the headsets.
America, he translated at the National History Society event, did it.
Yeah, there's definitely some good ones out there.
It kind of goes back to that discussion that you brought up, Elisa, about access. Right? And we do translate the minutes, but trying to just make it as accessible to every single parent, then I think access provides an opportunity for voice. So.
Peggy, did you want to discuss the archery?
Archery.
Archery?
Oh, archery. Yes, and let me just double check and see, I sent another message off to Wendy, and I did not hear back, but archery, believe it's next week that they go. And I heard from Wendy again today that apparently they have not collected enough money yet to go. And they're hoping that the district can help support the trip. They have been working hard to they have been actively working to collect the money for to support. I believe the little girl's name is Chelsea, but anyway, to support her and her family, and then the two coaches to attend the event, but they're asking for district support, and I believe we have supported that, and the district has helped support that in the past. And so I told them that I told them that we would be talking about that tonight. I was hoping that they would be able to attend the meeting tonight, but
Do you know how much money it is?
I asked her
That
to
was in
provide that for me.
And I thought that, and
I
maybe
didn't get
maybe
back
I'm
to her.
wrong, if the parents go, aren't the parents responsible for themselves?
I would think so.
Yeah. I don't
Because
know how much they collected.
the parents would be responsible for themselves, because there's two adults going, they could go with the student, but I understand why the parents want to go for sure, but yeah, so if we don't have a number.
Have they not bought flights then, or? a
It looks
hotel?
like it's
There's
3
a
grand.
sponsor in the community that would like to help.
Yeah, and I did ask for that. I just haven't heard back.
Okay, yeah,
That's great.
there's a number of different things we can do from, we passed that donation policy this year, so we can do donations or even open up like a GoFundMe.
The same.
And we
Do
can
you
all,
have a dollar amount? I'll leave it.
$3,074, but that was for the parents also, hotel for the parents,
room and board.
room and board for diem. But if there's someone from the community that wants to do it, I know that they have a raffle. My husband came home with raffle tickets. And do we know how much they made from the state tournament? Or how much they have in their ASB account?
No, that would be very helpful
And then
to know.
I know Wish has state this week or next week, and then when they go on to nationals, I know in the past, I mean, those parents have like in a minute have had to turn around and do incredible
Do,
amounts of fundraising.
And they do fundraising throughout the year and are part of, getting to do concessions and things like that, but so, if you all of a sudden have a year that there's like 10 kids, it
Right.
becomes a little shock to the system.
Let me work on it tomorrow.
And if you
And
can find out the
I'll
amount.
I'll
and tell
report
Brian.
back. Can you put that on my list?
Isn't there, wasn't there a link on the website?
There is.
There is?
Yes, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. Yeah, so we did set it up so that anybody can go on to our district website and it's the same function as like paying for a library fine or an ASB card. There's an option there that anyone can donate to the archery club. So that could be a parent, it could be a student, it could be a guest. Anyone out in the community can create a guest account and donate that way as well. So as of today, we've only received $200 towards the state competition.
So Amy, I'm on the website now, and I'm super unfamiliar with it other than what I specifically go to. How would I find that?
Okay, give me just a second. I'm going to walk you through it.
Yeah, that's fine.
Mr. Ross, Northwest Farm Supplies, has been awesome for a lot of things in our community, especially with the schools, but if we can find that out, Northwest Farm Supplies more than,
That's very nice. Thank you, Mr.
And Elisa, and what were the numbers that you had?
3,000.
But that included airfare for everybody. And I think we have to look at sitting the student in.
Work with Wendy tomorrow to firm some things up and
So you'll talk with her?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, because I asked her several times, and I asked her again right before I came into this meeting. I still need those numbers from you.
yeah.
And-
Sean, is it easy in the morning or tomorrow to like put like a banner on the main landing page, donate here for archery?
So the answer to that is yes.
Okay.
However, I think what Amy's referring to is the work that I did in InTouch. Amy, can you hear me talk? Am I close enough to the mic?
Yes, ma'am, I can hear you fine.
If Amy's referring to the setup that I did in InTouch, parents can donate, but the community does not have access to donate that way. That's not to say I can't set it up that way, but we didn't. So first I would have to set it up so the community can donate. And then, yes, we can put a link on our page.
Sean, I think that if anyone, because I had tried it, if we set up, anyone can set up a guest account and it should show up because one of the donations we received was from a non-parent, I believe. I would have to double check that, but I don't mean to argue with you. We can look into it. I just thought it was the same setup. So you do have to set up an account to use the InTouch function. But it wasn't locked down to just our parents.
So if somebody in the community wants to write it, wants to bring in money or a check.
Kind of chat.
Bring
who
it
do they
in.
Write it to.
They would write it to the Prosser School District
Okay.
and just let them know. So if they drop it off at the district office, just let any one of us know that it's for archery, and then we'll enter into InTouch and make sure that it makes it to the archery team.
Okay. That sounds great.
One quick thing for me, I will, as long as travel works well, I will be remote next week. So I'm going to the annual conference for Washington School Public Relations Association, communication conference. Jaleesa, my sister and I are going. So to learn some good stuff there.
I know Grandview always sends their communication.
Yeah, we don't have one of those, but I'm gonna go.
Okay, if there's no further business, next meeting.
I have had one thing. So we have a policy 111. 1112 policy and procedure. And it's for board orientation. And I think as, you know, as we start to explore, get candidates to fill the vacant seat, I think this would be a good opportunity to revisit that policy and procedure.
Good.
And allow them to catch up and have the information as quick as possible so they can catch up.
Do you want it as a discussion item at next meeting, or do you want to bring it to the work session after that, or just put it on my radar so I can bring it up with them once we bring them on the 10th?
Aren't we approving before the work session in May? I thought I saw the
May
timeline.
10th is the date we set to bring the person on.
Yeah, there wouldn't be a work
that
session until
correct?
the 17th.
So we would have to bring it back like next meeting.
Next
To
meeting.
have a
Yeah.
discussion
Yeah.
on, I don't know, there's a lot online, but there's a lot that's not, so.
Yeah.
Just so they have all the resources.
Okay.
No, that's good you brought up. I know, it'd be nice if, they get a tour of every building, tour the facilities and meet department directors. And I think that would be a good way to get oriented,
Mm.
in addition to other things.
Okay. We will schedule it.
Anything else? No, anything?
I did have one question, just because I wasn't here last meeting. Where are we on hiring someone to fill the mental health specialist position that we discussed a few months ago? I know you guys said that you were in some.
You're talking about the social worker?
Yes, no, sorry.
She started last Monday, a week ago Monday. So she's here at the high school 3 days a week and at the middle school 2 days a week.
That was my only question.
Okay. Meeting adjourned.